Hi everyone, welcome back. Today is a very exciting video. This is one of my favorite kinds of videos to film here on YouTube. We are talking about color corrector today. We are reviewing and testing the new Huda Beauty color corrector. So this is the Faux Filter Color Corrector in the shade Cherry Blossom. So this is not a new product. This has been out for about 6 months. It came out kind of mid-year 2023, but they've released 2 new shades. This is one of them in Cherry Blossom, and we're going to talk all about it today. We're going to do some comparisons. This is not going to be a quick review of a color corrector. I don't do quick reviews of color correctors here on YouTube, so stick around if you want to know all about Cherry Blossom from Huda Beauty. If you're new here, my name is Blair and I do all kinds of beauty content here on YouTube, but I've done many videos on color correctors. I've done dedicated videos on a ton of them here on my channel, so check them out if this is something that you're interested in. But this is one of my favorite things to talk about. I am very passionate about color corrector for the under eyes. So that's what we're going to be doing today, and let's just get into it. All right, so I've applied a little bit of a skin tint to my face, but that is it. So you can see my under eyes here. So I have blue, purple discoloration under my eyes. I have it every day, no matter what. Sometimes it's worse than others. It kind of depends on the day, but I always have it. So I always use color corrector when I do my makeup. I never skip it. That's just kind of a non-negotiable step for me. So when I saw they were releasing a lighter shade of this formula, I was so excited. The Pink Pomelo shade, which I also have, was the lightest shade that she offered. Now Cherry Blossom is. So we're going to compare Pink Pomelo and Cherry Blossom today as well, because there's a very big difference in the depth of color and also the undertone of these 2 shades. What I'm the most excited about is that they have released 2 new shades that have pink undertones. Usually color correctors that come out, they're very warm and they lean very orangey. Now, whether or not they're peach or apricot or a true orange, kind of depends. But they very rarely come out with shades that have a good bit of pink in them or that have a pink undertone. So this truly is a product that needs to be out there. In Cherry Blossom and I believe Lychee is the deeper shade for medium tan skin tones. Now this corrector was actually my favorite of the year in 2023. If you saw my best of makeup for 2023 for color corrector, this was the only one. And that was before I had a new shade. So I was talking about Pink Pomelo here. But I'm gonna swatch these 2 shades so you can see there is a big difference between the 2. So here are the swatches. So we have Cherry Blossom, which is this shade here, and Pink Pomelo, which is this shade here. So you can definitely see in the swatches, there is much more pink here than there is here. See how this leans very orangey? If you have fair skin, so if you're lighter than me, Pink Pomelo is gonna be really deep on you, really deep on you. And the thing with color correctors, they're a bit complicated in terms of which color is right for you, because it depends on your skin tone and it depends on the undertone of your discoloration that you're trying to correct. So that's why sometimes color correctors, it's really trial and error. Truly, it's trial and error. So that's another reason I really like making these videos, is hopefully this can help you maybe determine what shade is best for you. One other thing I wanted to point out, and then I promise we'll get to the application, I will also include timestamps on this video. So if you want to just skip to the application, there will be timestamps. But another thing that I see so often with color corrector is a lot of brands will make a pink color corrector, but the pink is so light that it almost looks white on your under eyes. I have an example of one of those that I'll show you at the end. I'm going to do swatches and compare these shades to other brands that I have, but a lot of times shades that brands will call pink, when you actually apply them and blend them out, they look white. They're so light. There's so very little pink pigment in there. It's mainly white pigment with just a little bit of pink in it. That doesn't work either if you have true under eye darkness, because if you put something light over something that's darker, they're going to look worse. They're not going to look better. The darkness is going to show right through the light color that you just put on. Then your under eyes are just going to look gray. So you would have been better off most likely with just not applying anything. So, okay, let's get into it. We'll do the original shade that I've been using for 6 months now in Pink Pomelo. I'm going to do that one on this side and you'll see the difference here. Okay, so there's Pink Pomelo. I know that they suggest in the marketing for this product to do 3 dots. You don't need 3 dots, in my opinion. 3 dots is a lot, and this formula is very liquidy. It's very fluid, so it spreads a lot. So make sure, unless you want a lot of pigment, maybe apply less than you think you need, because I promise this will spread all the way across your under eyes. Like, do you see that? How far that just spread? Also, because Pink Pomelo is dark for me, so I don't know if it will pick up on camera. In fact, I'll turn the brightness down. See if it will pick up any better. Okay. So because Pink Pomelo is darker, you can kind of see like this orangey rim around where I blended it out right there. That's just because it's a good bit deeper than my skin tone. So there is Pink Pomelo, and you can see it does a good job. I will have to apply a bit more concealer though, typically, to cover this shade up, because it is a good bit darker and it doesn't blend as well into my skin tone, but it does a good job of correcting. Another tip that I want to give is when you're choosing a color corrector, the easiest way to think about it is you have to match the depth of your darkness under your eyes. So you can't, kind of goes back to what I was saying about using a lighter corrector or a lighter concealer, whatever it is, over something that's dark. It's not going to work. You have to match the darkness with your corrector, and then you can add something that's lighter or closer to your skin tone, if that's what you're wanting. So just remember that. I can't apply something that matches this area of my skin right here, if I want to conceal that discoloration, because this is darker than this. So if I put this here without matching the depth of darkness, it's not going to work. So keep that in mind. If you are unsure of the shade, I would say go darker, not lighter. The only thing with going darker, like I said, on this side is you will most likely have to apply a little bit more concealer to cover it up. So ideally, you want to get as close as you can to your skin tone, but still meet the depth of darkness, which, depending on how dark your under eyes are or whatever you're trying to correct, will dictate how close you can get to your skin tone. I hope that makes sense. I'm going to do a whole video, by the way, on color correctors and get everything out that I want to say about them, but that video is taking a very long time, so it's coming, but just know I'm going to make a whole video on it. Let's move on to Cherry Blossom, and we're going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to do 1 dot on both eyes so you can see, and then if we need more, we can add more. But I have found with this formula in particular, it is very, very fluid, so it will spread a lot. Now I'm going to start tapping this in under my eyes. Now, of course, I'm using a brush for this, but you could definitely use your finger if you want. I just like to use a brush in particular with color corrector because I don't want it to suck up any of my product, and if you use like a sponge, it will usually pick up too much. So I would prefer a brush, a smaller brush. This is a really old AOA Studio brush. This one from Rare Beauty is really great. But you could also use like an eyeshadow brush, a really small fluffy brush like this. Anything that's small that will fit under your eye works the best. So here are the two sides. So we have Pink Pomelo over here and Cherry Blossom over here. Now on camera, I'll have to see when I watch this footage back. I don't know how obvious the color difference will be, mainly because I only applied one dot of each one. If I had applied more of Pink Pomelo, you would definitely see how orangey it pulls on me, but I didn't want to over apply just for the sake of the video. But this side works fine. It just doesn't blend into my skin tone as seamlessly as this one does, but I could get away with either. Something else important to note here is this Cherry Blossom shade. I don't want anyone buying this thinking that it's going to be a brightener. It's going to give you that really bright, almost white looking under eye. That is not what this is going to do. It is pink and it is the lightest shade, but this is a true pigmented pink concealer basically. So if you're wanting brightness, that's not really what you're going to get from this. This is just going to be truly for fair light skin tones that have a good bit of discoloration under their eyes that concealer is not covering. That's what this is for. I'll show you when we get to the swatches an example of a more brightening pink corrector as opposed to something like this that is just true pink pigment. But hopefully you can see, I mean, to me, looking at the two sides, I haven't even applied concealer yet, but I prefer the Cherry Blossom side just because it blends into my skin tone much better. Honestly, the Cherry Blossom side, I could get away with wearing this on its own. If I didn't feel like putting concealer on the top, I could do that. I could do it with Pink Pomelo, but it's just a little bit more obvious here, kind of where it blends into my skin tone. But overall, this corrector is a really nice formula. This one is not the most full coverage corrector. I would say this is a solid medium coverage color corrector. So if you need something with a lot more coverage, I would typically go for something like Bobbi Brown, like this one, or even Pixie from the drugstore is also very good. Those are a cream, so they're a bit higher in pigment. This one is a true medium coverage, but it's a beautiful formula, very hydrating, very thin, and it plays well with concealer on top, which is also very important. Sometimes, believe it or not, color correctors for under the eyes don't work that well with concealer over the top. They don't play well with everything. You would think that they would because they're made to go underneath concealer, but sometimes they don't. This formula though, I've never had an issue with any concealers over the top. All right, let's go ahead and add some concealer. Since this is from Huda Beauty, we'll use the Huda Beauty Faux Filter Concealer. This is a great concealer, by the way, and it does pair really well, obviously, with this corrector. So I'm gonna apply a little bit of this to both eyes. And I wear the shade Coconut Flakes in the concealer. Okay, I am just gonna tap that concealer in. And you always want to use a tapping motion. Just keep in mind if you've applied color corrector on before your concealer, make sure you're tapping your concealer in, because if you swipe or do anything harsh like this, you're going to move your corrector, and that's not what we want, because then it's not going to do what you want it to do. Move on to the other eye. All right, so now that we've got concealer on both eyes, I am gonna set them. I don't always do this, and I don't always use this product, but since I have it and it goes with the video, I'm gonna use it. So this is, I'm sure you know, the Easy Bake Powder from Huda Beauty. This one is actually in the shade Cherry Blossom. So in case you were wondering what it looks like with the Cherry Blossom powder over the top, I will show you. But just being totally honest, I can't decide how I feel about the whole baking under the eyes. Sometimes I do it, I think it looks fine. Sometimes I do it and I don't think it looks that great. So I'm gonna do it for the sake of the video, but I don't always do this step. It's just kind of personal preference. So I'm gonna use a little triangle puff here. And I am not gonna use, I'm not gonna go crazy where you see the powder going like all the way across the under eye. I don't like doing that. That's too much for me. So I'm just actually gonna get what's in the cap on my puff here. So it looks like that. Then I'm gonna kind of tap it off on the palm of my hand. And then I'm gonna quickly use my sponge, make sure there's no like excess product or things that I don't want to set. I like very little powder. I don't think using a ton of it always looks the best, just my opinion. But I'm gonna take this and I'm just gonna apply a little tiny bit, mainly right here in this very inner corner. There is Cherry Blossom Corrector, Huda Beauty Concealer, and then a little bit of the powder over the top. I mean, it does really smooth the area. Sometimes I don't know if it's just me. I feel like sometimes it can remove a little bit of the coverage, just my personal opinion, but if you want to see it, there it is. So we'll go ahead and set the other side also with Pink Pomelo. All right, so we've set both eyes with Cherry Blossom powder, and honestly, I mean, they both look fine to me. If I were choosing one or the other, I would probably choose the Cherry Blossom Corrector side, but I could get away with either. It just depends on your skin tone, your under eyes, how dark your under eyes are, the undertone of what color is under your eyes. So it's really dependent on the person. So hopefully this was helpful. I am going to do some comparisons though, like I said. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up my makeup, and then I'll come back and we'll finish up with some comparisons to other color correctors. Last, I want to finish up with some comparisons in case you want to see swatches next to some of my other color correctors to help you with shade, because like I said, the shade truly is the most important thing in a color corrector. So I've already swatched Cherry Blossom, which is there, and Pink Pomelo from Huda Beauty, which is right there. Now, another formula that I use all the time is Bisque from Bobbi Brown. And this one works really well for me, so I want to swatch it so you can see. This is a cream formula, so it's not a liquid like the Huda Beauty formula, but that is Bisque right there. So Bisque is pretty good for my skin tone. You can see here though, it's much warmer than Cherry Blossom. Cherry Blossom is very pink. Bisque is not quite as warm as Pink Pomelo here. It's not as dark. It's close to my skin tone. It just has more of that peachy, orangey undertone. So honestly, this is kind of what I've been looking for, is something this pink, but I can also get away with Bisque from Bobbi Brown too. Again, it's kind of personal preference and it's very individual to you and your skin tone, your under eyes. It's kind of hard because I'd have to see you in person to really know what might work for you, but hopefully this is helpful. The next one that I have that I also really like is Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Magic Vanish Corrector in the shade Medium, which is there. So we have Charlotte Tilbury in medium, we have Bisque from Bobbi Brown, Pink Pomelo from Huda Beauty, and Cherry Blossom from Huda Beauty. So the Magic Vanish in medium is even orangier actually. If you can see there, it has a little bit more orange to it, but it's closer to my skin tone than like Pink Pomelo is from Huda Beauty. So there are those four. Now another one that I use all the time that I love is Pixie in the shade Brightening Peach. This is my favorite drugstore color corrector. The downside is there's only 2 shades, which is kind of a theme, honestly, with color correctors in general, not just from the drugstore. But I want to swatch this one also. So we have Pixie right here, Huda Beauty, Cherry Blossom, Pink Pomelo, Bisque from Bobbi Brown, and Charlotte Tilbury Magic Vanish. So as you can see, Cherry Blossom is very unique. None of these have that pink undertone like Cherry Blossom does, which I'm telling you, if you are more of a fair light skin tone, something with pink in it, if you have blue, purple under eyes, is gonna help, but it's gotta have more pink than it has white. So I will show you an example now of what I was talking about earlier, which is a corrector that is pink. The name is pink, but it is very, very light, like almost white. So this is an example from Exa. This is a great color corrector, and I have another one in a different shade that works better, but I want you to see the difference here because you can really see with all these swatches next to each other. Okay, does one of these stick out to you? Yes, it's this one. So this is the Exa color corrector in pink. Do you see how, I mean, that's almost white. When you blend that out, it's gonna look white. That is what's not gonna do anything for you in terms of color correction. And a lot of brands, if they do even make a pink, this is what it looks like. It's that light. So, I mean, unless you are very, very, very fair and you have no discoloration under your eyes at all, most likely that's not going to work for you. The only thing that something like this would be super useful for is if you've already corrected under your eyes and then you want to brighten a little bit, then yeah, you could use something lighter like that and it will brighten the under eyes. But if you go right in with something that light and you have darkness similar to mine, probably not going to get the outcome that you want. So that's why this Huda color in Cherry Blossom is unique, because you just don't see that. You see this really bright, almost white pink, but you never see this. Then one more I will swatch is this same brand, Exa High Fidelity, which I love, but this is the shade Peach. So I'll show you this one too so you can see. So that is Exa in Peach, Exa in Pink, Pixie in Brightening Peach, Cherry Blossom, Pink Pomelo, Bisque from Bobbi Brown, and Charlotte Tilbury Magic Vanish in Medium. All right, you guys, I think that is everything that I wanted to cover in this video. I hope this was helpful if you wanted to see what Cherry Blossom truly looks like and some comparisons to other things. I definitely recommend it. I've been recommending the Huda Beauty formula since it came out last year, and I think adding these 2 additional shades is amazing. If you have fair light or light skin and you have darkness under your eyes and you've just never been able to find something that's light enough but that will cover and correct your discoloration, definitely look into Cherry Blossom. It's a really unique color and the formula is great. It wears beautifully. I've been wearing this for 6 months, so I highly recommend it. I hope this was helpful. I will have the corrector linked below with everything else that I used today on my face. I do use affiliate links that support my channel if you shop through them, so thank you so much if you do choose to do that. If you ever have trouble with color correctors, choosing one or a shade, you can always DM me on Instagram and I'll do my best to help you without physically seeing you. I know a lot of you have found my channel because of my color corrector videos, so I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll subscribe if you have not already and follow me over on Instagram at simply.blair and TikTok, simply.blair1, and I will see you next time. Remember, simply be you.